Welcome to Let's Talk About It. Today we have a guest, a special guest, Janice. So I want to welcome Janice to Let's Talk About It this evening. We do have something different today. I guess, just to introduce the topic, it will be about establishing yourself within the workplace. And who better else to talk about it than Janice? How it's going to work is we're going to have a few questions, we're going to run through it. Please do get involved. I would like for you to send in your questions, also any comments that you do have. If you have an input, please share your own experiences and how you think that we can establish ourselves within the workplace, in the corporate workplace, and also balancing Christianity and not necessarily trying to compromise within that, because I know that there are people who have to kind of dilute how they are at work just to kind of fit in the corporate settings. So let's welcome Janice.
Hi everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously let's just dive straight into it. Would you like to tell us about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually a member of Faith Miracle Church. I have been for past, say, 2 years now. It's gone really quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of work, I'm actually head of marketing and PR for an established luxury beauty and wellness operator in London. And my job, the actual remit of my role is quite broad in the sense that I'm responsible for all output that covers creative, brand, PR, influencers, digital, social media, email communications, customer acquisition and retention. So it's a complete 360 view of marketing and PR, and looking at how the brand is portrayed to the public and getting customers through the door.
Oh, wow. So it does sound like you're hands-on with it. It does seem like you do have quite a bit of responsibility with it as well.
Especially as over all of the years that I've been working within the industry, I've worked for companies that are quite established, but they often have small teams. So you get to wear many hats, more than what your actual job description entails, which is good for personal development and growth.
Definitely. Okay. So with that, how long did you say you've been doing it for?
So I've actually been in the marketing and PR sector for the past 13 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is crazy. 13 years. I'm trying to think, I haven't been where I've been for 13 years. All right. So to some extent, you must be enjoying it.
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, it was definitely an area that I wanted to go into. I probably realised that when I was at university, that I wanted to specialise in marketing. But when I was in secondary school, I was very much interested in fashion. A lot of people thought maybe I'd go down the design route, but I always wanted to focus on the business side. That was what really interested me. So I knew that I wanted to do business. I went to university, did an international business degree. But when I was at university, it became apparent that it was marketing that I really wanted to specialise in. So that's what I wanted to kind of create a career in once I'd left.
Yeah. See, I think that's one of the good things about university, because it gives you so many different modules, because I did business management and HR when I was in university, and the business management side of it, we dealt with accounts, we dealt with HR, international business, marketing, we done all of that, so you kind of get a feel and a taste of what it is exactly you do want to kind of specialise in.
And there's a lot of crossover, with accounts. I hated doing accounts when I was at university.
Honestly, the accountant module, please, let's not talk about it.
It was probably my least favourite module when I was doing it my first year. But then you do, in my role, I manage marketing budget of millions of pounds. So, that has come in handy.
It is a top-notch responsibility.
Yes, completely.
It is. And you, obviously, as the head of there are people that actually have to report back to you. How has it been, should I say, working with numerous people in terms of having to manage quite a few people here and there, and
Yeah, sure. I think it's probably been about 8 years now that I've been managing teams. And it's a great experience to be able to nurture and support, a junior member of staff to help them, potentialise on their strengths, but then also help them to maximise on their weaknesses, on areas of weaknesses. So it's a great privilege to be able to look after a team and help with their personal development within the business.
That is good. Now, obviously, just basing on obviously the topic of today is establishing yourself within the workplace. One question I do want to ask, with that being said, about us talking about university, because a lot of us, come out of university, you have studied, but sometimes we kind of divert into something else, even though we say, this is kind of what we want to do. How did you manage to stay focused and steady on that path to the point where you've been working there within 13 years and gotten to such a high role?
I have to say I've been really blessed to have a concrete vision of what I wanted to do. And essentially I have been able to carve a career within that industry, and for industries that I have a passion and natural affinity for, so fashion, beauty, lifestyle brands. At the time I was very ambitious when I was at university, and I would contact people within the fashion industries asking for internships and trying to network. I was, networking is very important in, the marketing side. So I really made sure that I maximised on all of the people that I would get into contact with, ask for opportunities to be able to do internships and shadow them. Funnily enough, I got my first role 6 months after I finished university. Initially, that's really good. I started working at an architect's just to have something. It was local, and just to have something coming in, I started working at an architect's. But then through my networking, I ended up working for a very well-known luxury American brand. But that was purely because of what I'd done before in terms of laying the foundation with making sure I was connected with the right people. And it was actually via a relationship that I maintained with somebody. At the time, she was head of international for British Fashion Council.
This is where networking comes in.
And she actually introduced me to a good friend of mine now, who introduced me to the sales manager at the brand I actually got my first role at. So I would really recommend using the power of your network. You never know who would be able to recommend you or just be able to give you a bit of an open door into your next opportunity.
I think within that as well, it's sometimes let's be completely honest, sometimes in this world it isn't just about what you know, it is generally who you know.
Definitely.
In the corporate setting, I would say anyway. And I know a lot of us in terms of Christianity will shout, and I know my God, so he will do it for us. And in that sense, obviously, it literally just depends on how you function. Because I know for me, at one stage, even within uni, some people go to networking events and I was just like, no, I'm tired, I don't want to do it. So certain things just didn't really interest me when it came to networking, and I felt like once I started in one of my previous roles, that was a major thing. You had to network because it would be this person that can possibly take you on into going into their office and being their assistant and all these little things. So one advice, networking.
And I would say, just on the point that you've made, with the advent of social media and the fact that it's become so much part of our daily lives, it's so much more easier to network compared to probably when I was starting out. There's essentially no barriers to the people that you can connect with, whether it's domestically or internationally. It's much more easier to be able to network with people and put yourself out there and actually show people what you're capable of through your social network.
It is very true. I do want you guys to all get involved as well and shoot any questions at Janice, and you will answer as in depth as she can. So obviously we have established that this is something that you have wanted to do. You've been there for about 13 years. What challenges have you faced in the midst of progressing to your current role?
Yeah. Well, having been in the industry for as long as I have, I've worked for different types of businesses, with different types of leaders and different management styles. There have been times when I've worked in toxic work environments. There've been fraught relations with colleagues that you have to work closely with. There've been times when, the majority, or I'd say where the business priorities are, they don't necessarily align with your beliefs as a Christian.
Yeah.
So those have definitely been challenging times, but I would probably say more recently, last year, that was a very tough, challenging time for me.
Okay.
Because we were opening a new location, so it was a complete new startup project from scratch.
Okay.
And with that comes a lot of pressure to be able to set up in time, do the numbers and everything. And I was literally holding a department down on my own. So it was a really testing time, I think.
I can imagine.
Mentally and physically, to the point where I really struggled with liking and being passionate about my job. So that was definitely a tough time last year, with having a huge responsibility on your shoulders, but actually falling out of love with what you come to do every day.
And that's a very crazy one, because it does get to a point where, you do see yourself, following a certain route in your career. And the more you do it, the least interested you are in doing it. I guess it may be just because you have to do it by fire, by force, like every day. Like when you go into work, that's what you're doing. When like the pressure hits, like as you're saying, you start to fall out of love with it. But there's about keeping that balance and like staying strong and dedicated to it. And in that midst where you are the only person within that department and you have to hold it down for this new project, that's a scary that is a scary thought. I mean, some people do crumble in that. So, how did you kind of keep your head above water with it?
I mean, it was tough. I had quite a few conversations with both Pastor Moses and Pastor Eddie about how I was feeling. I think the biggest takeaway that I took from that situation was you have to listen to God. Because how I was feeling day to day, I was ready just to quit my job and walk out without anything, because it was actually detrimental to my health and my happiness and my well-being, and I just thought it's just not worth it. So I wanted to do the unwise thing and actually leave my job. And was trusting God that he'll bring something else. But God was actually saying, no, you have to be still. So I think in situations where it's really tough, in a place where you probably spend the majority of your time, it's all about just waiting on God and hearing what he has to say about the situation, because ultimately he's the one who's going to bring you through it at the appointed time, and that's what he did for me. So,
and even with that, I just want to add on to this. I know that I'm not the one being interviewed, guys, but please hear me out. I do have something to say with this. Where I was working before, it was a job out of university. I worked in this company for just touching 3 years, and within my first probably 5 or 6 months working there, I realised this is not what I want to do. Get me out of here. I just didn't want to do it. And it was like, it's not yet time. Don't move. Do not move. Just kind of wait there. Within the time, I obviously progressed within my role. One of the challenges that I faced was that I was not only, working like 12, 13-hour shifts every day, but I also had to work during weekends. So whereby I had a role to fulfill in church, on Sundays, there were some Sundays where I could not make it into church, and it was because of work. And obviously you have these questions, oh, Roxanne, where are you? Where have you been? Or maybe on the days where the Sundays you are off, you feel a bit reluctant to come in and stay back late, like doing work for the church, because you're like, this is my only day off. Like, I need to rest because I've got another 7-day week coming up. And I did fight through it. I prayed a lot when it came to that, and it was just not yet. It's not yet. And I got promoted into a managerial role like a year later, and I moved somewhere further, but it was only a 6-day-a-week place, so I didn't necessarily have to do as many hours. However, it was a lot more stressful, and I think when I did talk to Pastor about it, eventually, that's when it was like, okay, just leave. Like, it was, there isn't anything necessarily there, just kind of like take that leap of faith and up and leave without anything. And I did that, and thinking about my journey between now and then and where I am now within my role, my workplace, it's like, honestly, it could have only been God. I'm literally in a role that I have wanted to do since university. They are paying for me to go back to and study. Like, there are numerous things there, and I think hearing what you're saying in terms of like standing firm and networking and doing what you need to do, I definitely have been embedding it within this new role, and I think that's kind of where I have kind of got to, but maybe not as much as other people. And I think one of the questions that Sister Choma just put down in one of the comments was, how do you put yourself out there to your network without looking and sounding desperate? How do you?
I think it's all about authenticity. And it's all about what you want to get from that particular person. What is it that you admire about that particular person? I think maybe starting off with that, you know, when you approach them, starting off with that, and then I think that the genuineness that you have about wanting to be able to connect with them would come across. So I think you do have to be, I think when it comes to networking, you really do have to be bold.
100%. And guys, this is actually, like, we've been taught about this at church as well. It's a pride thing. Thinking, oh, maybe I don't want to do this because I may look desperate, or how do I sound desperate? It's a pride thing. Let your pride go and do, like, go forth and, you know, try and see how far you can get. The worst they can do is kind of give you one-word answers, or kind of like say they can't help you. And it's just like that, if you don't ask, you won't receive, isn't it?
Definitely. You just never know who's going to be your next helpmate.
Exactly. So I just want to take time to acknowledge those who are joining us. We would like to say hi to Sister Valentina, Sister Moye, Sister Betta, Sister Sylvie. We have Joshua also in the house. We have Jibby, who's in the house as well. I want to thank you all for joining. Please do feel free to send in your comments. If you have any questions as well, please feel free to also ask. Share your experiences as well. Now, another thing I want to talk on is just the simple fact that we are both women, both trying to establish ourselves within work. Above just being women, we are Christians.
Yes.
Now, how do you think, if you have, do you think you've had to dilute your Christianity in a corporate environment sometimes?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that I'm quite vocal, or I have been in the last couple of years, as I've developed, you know, spiritually, about the fact that church is a key part of my life. A lot of my colleagues know that, you know, I attend church every Sunday. I have a church family. You know, they hear about the meetings that I go to, the programs that I attend. So I have become quite, you know, vocal about that. And also I invite people to come as well. And some colleagues have, you know, come really to visit churches that I've attended, which is good. Also, I have a bit of a routine now. I make sure that I listen to Premier Gospel as part of my working day. So that kind of like just helps me when I'm in the zone. I've got some, worship music or praise music, in my headphones. So that's become quite routine for me as well. But, to an extent, there are situations where you do maybe have to dilute your Christianity in terms of, conflicting beliefs that may be amongst your colleagues that you work with. There are certain things that they may do, certain lifestyles that they may follow, which isn't necessarily aligned with, how you're meant to behave as a Christian.
Exactly.
And whether you say that or challenge them about that, that's something I think, where you have to kind of like tread very carefully, because at the same time, as much as we may not agree with what people choose to do, you also have to make sure you don't offend them as well, because essentially you have to work with them on a day-to-day basis. So
you don't really want to come across too judgmental as well.
Precisely, that's really important.
I know a lot of people try and spin it in a way where they'll be like, okay, but aren't you a Christian? You're sounding a bit judgmental, or like you don't want to seem like you're doing too much. And I think in the sense where you are managing quite a few people and few teams, you don't want to necessarily do something where they feel like you're trying to impose your beliefs on them.
Precisely. And I think respect is a really key word within the workplace, especially in this day and age. So I think that just has to apply on all sides, regardless of what your beliefs are, what you choose to do recreationally and everything. So you just have to respect everybody's wishes.
Do you have an example of like what has been a conflict within the workplace and your beliefs, whether it's with like a colleague or someone?
I have, in terms of what the business has decided to do.
Yeah.
And in some situations, God, there have been times when I felt uncomfortable, especially within a marketing position where you've had to go and promote something that you just do not believe in. Is a complete conflict with, the values of being a Christian.
Yeah.
And in those situations, there have been times when God has managed to get me out of that situation, and I've been so thankful where I've not had to address it.
Yeah.
And there have been like the odd time when it's kind of like part of your job, and you don't want to create an issue by, perhaps putting your foot down and saying, sorry, but I don't feel comfortable doing this. I actually wish I was probably bolder to do in those times to be able to stand up and say that without necessarily having God to find a way and get me out of it and not have to confront it.
Yeah.
So next time that comes up, I'm hoping that I'll actually find the boldness and courage to say, actually, I can't do this because it's not aligned with what I believe as a Christian.
Which is fair. I mean, especially when it comes to marketing as well, just like you said, kind of having to put something out there that you yourself don't even necessarily believe in, but it has to be done for the company. And for that way, I guess, let's say are there any fears of, let's say you put your foot down and say, nope, I don't believe in it and I'm not doing it, that would kind of tarnish how far you've got currently in your workplace? Or
and cause issues if you're planning on staying there for the future, cause potential issues, because you don't want to seem like you're being difficult
or treading on people's toes,
but at the same time you do want to have a level of integrity with what you do. So I think in situations like that, that's a bit it can be a bit tough deciding what route to take.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think to an extent of, even the industries that you work with and like the lifestyles of people. And I would be honest and say within my workplace, I have not necessarily, I wouldn't call it diluting, but I feel like I can't be as bold and outspoken about certain things that I may not necessarily agree with when it comes to lifestyles. And I think, for example, just trying to be as, because there's so many laws that cover people nowadays.
Yes.
So you don't really want to talk, you can't necessarily talk harshly on certain things or impose your own personal beliefs. And I think that even comes down to some people's sexualities and their lifestyles. And I think the industry that I'm currently working in, there are quite a few people like that. And I do have some colleagues that live a life that doesn't necessarily agree with my beliefs. And where it's trying to be like pressed as a norm in this day and age, I just haven't had that boldness to be that one to step out and be like, you know what, no, I don't agree with this because of my religion, and like what you're doing is actually wrong. It's just a conversation I just refuse to get involved with. And I think even though they do know, you know, Roxanne's a churchgoer, she's a Christian, she probably does have like opposing views, I feel like they still don't mind to talk about it as much, and I do tend to keep my distance away. But within that is a networking thing, I guess, because let's say you don't want to tread on people's toes, you don't want to necessarily bring out a certain topic that may offend someone, or like let's say if it's a manager or a boss or a director that's living a certain lifestyle, but you have to, you know, network. Is it just business, or their way of life will still affect you, and you know, you kind of want to, I don't know, maybe just push yourself away from it.
I suppose it's also down to how much you're convicted by it. Like if the Holy Spirit really prompts you and you feel, no, actually, I don't agree with that, it's wrong, then, you know, hopefully you'll have the courage to actually say something and speak up.
True.
So I think conviction goes a long way.
It really does. But when you are in a corporate setting and society where there are laws and things that protect certain people and their lifestyles, you can't really say anything. And I guess whereby I'm in the HR department, I can't necessarily be the one to throw that conviction on someone.
Example.
Exactly. I have to act and lead by example. So it is not easy. However, we just pray that God will guide us, direct us into the way that, or where we need to be, how we approach those situations. And hopefully it's not something that will, you know, alter our career or kind of like
become a detriment.
Exactly. So yeah, we have Sister Anne-Marie who has said sometimes you have to stand up to your beliefs, and I definitely agree. Just as we were saying, I will be completely honest and say it's a lot easier said than done.
Yes.
Just because, you know, when you are trying to progress, you don't want to do something where someone has the power to hinder your progression within that company. And I know, you know, people do say, and it is a thing where it's not necessarily someone can do so, but sometimes when you do think about the corporate workplace, there are a lot of things that people can do that doesn't necessarily will be to your advantage.
It's all about, you know, having the knowledge to be able to tread carefully.
Exactly. Yeah, and I agree. So we have Valentina who said, I guess it's a matter of mutual respect.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I think that's where I would hold myself to that high regard, in terms of you can, you know, if you want to talk about your lifestyle and whatnot over there, that's fine. I don't agree with it. However, don't engage in conversation with me about it, and just respect the fact that we have our own different beliefs.
Yeah.
But in that sense, I'm not necessarily treading on people's toes. It's just about
respecting
that fine line, and there is a boundary. And as long as we are both okay with it, then we can move forward and just keep it on that corporate environment, a workplace. And Sister Sylvie also said, don't compromise, stand firm. Amen. Definitely stand firm. I agree with that. So let's make it a bit more interesting. As ladies, a bit of a female talk. What would you advise someone who is in pursuit of their career but also looking for a life partner?
I think both are important.
Yeah.
However, I think when it comes to your career, the onus is on you to be able to potentialise on every opportunity that's given to you. Whereas with finding a life partner, I think the dependency is more on God making sure that you're at the right place at the right time to meet the right person who's going to essentially complement you.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to carving your career, that is on you. I mean, God can make sure that you get the job.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to make sure you stay in that job and perform to the best of your ability before you move up, whether that's within that company or elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge responsibility on an individual to be able to aspire or make sure that they fulfill their career goals and aspirations.
Yeah.
And then finding the life partner, that's something that takes, that requires a big faith element.
Yeah.
Hoping and trusting that God is going to, make sure that his plan is ultimately fulfilled.
Definitely.
So I would advise somebody who's in pursuit of both of those areas to, do what you can with your career and, maximise it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Without having the attitude of, well, God's going to see me through.
Yeah. All right. So in terms of, let's say, if you were to have a person, let's say you're well established in your career, you have met someone, the timing, making time, how do you do it? Like you have a lot on your hands, your role is really important, like people depend on you in that kind of sense. So how would it be in terms of ensuring that you have made time, or just dating? I mean, it is something, there is, God places you at the right place at the right time, but then balancing it with work and with life and with sleep. How do you do it?
I guess it just depends on how important that area is to you, in accordance with the other kind of like things that you have going on within life. I think if you care about something enough, you'll make time for it.
Yeah.
So it's important not to make work a bit of a like crutch or security blanket like I have, I think, over the years, because I don't have dependents waiting for me at home and everything. But I think when the opportunity comes along for you to date, or you've found somebody that you're quite serious about, perhaps taking it to marriage, you do have to create that time. It's about making sacrifice and making sure that you're willing to commit to that area of your life.
So what about those who, let's say, they do have independence, they do have dependents that wait for them at home, that they're married or they have, a home to look after. However, they are now at that point where they do want to pursue a career. They do need to go out and do more, but keeping a household, that would be a bit, I would say it would be a lot more hard work than for someone like us who don't have dependents, or someone that we have to run home to.
Completely, because, I guess I hear a lot of, some of my friends who have got young children and they've got like mum guilt by wanting to go back out to work and, re-establish themselves within the workplace and do something that's for them. They don't just want to be defined as somebody's wife or somebody's mother. They've got actual goals and aspirations that they want to be able to realise for themselves outside of the kitchen or, the home. So, I completely appreciate it must be hard to be able to, balance that home and work, life. Really difficult. I mean, it'd be good to hear from
everyone else. Yes, please.
Let us know how you manage it.
We have quite a few. We have Anne-Marie, Sister Chioma, Aisha, let's hear your own views. Samoya, Valentina, married ladies, come out of the woodworks. Definitely give us some advice, as we're the singles here. So let us know what you think. or what advice you would give us? Let's say we want to progress in our career. However, we do know that it's getting to the time where we do have to start, settling down, find a partner when we have kids. How do we balance a household with progressing in our career to obviously the highest of our ability?
Yeah, because they're both important
commitments. They are. And you just want to have your own. I do say this as well, like, I want to be established. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily work that way. You can find someone and then you guys can establish yourselves together. And obviously with that, it's about making sure that you both know the depth of making, like, how important it is to make time, and you understand each other's passions. And there is that leeway to know that, okay, well, I'm doing this and it may take a bit more time. It may be longer hours and whatnot, but it's kind of for the benefit of yourselves and knowing that you want to build a foundation or you want to build an empire together. Completely. So there are sacrifices that go within it.
And I think the key word that you said is together.
Exactly.
It's important to, outline the foundation from, when you've initially met, make sure you've got the same goals and everything.
Yes, exactly. Yes, we have Sister Valentina, a young, married, beautiful lady who has said it's about the right partnership with your husband. Amen. So it starts with the right partner. Definitely. And I think that's kind of what you touched on in regards to, that's an aspect that you kind of somewhat have to leave to God whilst you are kind of like focusing on your career progression. We all say it's about having someone who is understanding and that support. Sister Betta has said, I think having the support of your spouse is so important, especially if you want to progress in your career. It is a decision to have with the husband and the wife. Sister Anne-Marie, as you said, understanding each other and plan together, there is no rush. And I think that's where, some people probably fail to talk to each other.
Communication is key.
Exactly. And it may be, if you don't have these conversations whilst during the courting stage or before you get married, then when you're now married and he wants you to be a housewife and make sure that the Eba and everything is ready when he walks through the door. But you're thinking, well, I kind of thought you would maybe have to, pick the kids up today because I'm going to do a late one or I've got a work event later. It's about that balance, and it's the little things like that can rub and ruin a marriage. Discussing, planning together, no rush, being understanding and having that support. I think it's very easy for us to say, as females, we want a husband that's going to be so supportive and that is, gonna root us on. But we have to also have that same support. And I remember there was something that Sister Chioma said when she was preaching one time about the guy is the head of the household. However, as a female, we're the neck, so we're what supports the head. And it's important to know your roles and how crucial you both are to each other and how much you support the other. And if you don't know that, it's just probably not going to work. But I think with that being said, prayer, ensuring that you are praying for the correct person to come along. And there isn't, you're not just going with the whole, okay, well, this could possibly be the one. And, time is running out, so let's just, let's just take it to the aisle. I mean, there's generally no rush because it's going to hurt in the long run.
Yeah.
And we have Brother Monday who said you must have good time management, being able to balance the time you have to all areas.
Very true. That is a good point, actually.
It's about time management. I think a lot of people don't understand the depth of time management. Like, for me, I think communication and time are the crucial things when it comes to building with someone. I think if there's a lack of communication or there's a lack of time management and you can't make time for that person, what are you actually building with them?
Completely.
We have Sister Happy, you have to understand each other, communicate and support one another. So I think right now we're kind of all around saying all the same things, isn't it? communication, support, time management, everything like that. Okay. So now that we know, we've had our advice from both the married, the singles. Obviously, you've mentioned that currently, you have built within your career and whatnot. However, you are still single and you don't have like dependents. So, I would definitely, I really have to commend you in terms of how far you have come in your career. You've chose a path from uni, from the jump. You've worked towards it. You've gotten there. You're literally doing what you want. It's honestly amazing. Do you think there's anything that you would take back or do differently from the time you studied in uni till now?
I think probably two things. I think being able to set boundaries much better in terms of taking so much on where you just feel overwhelmed. And it goes back to, you know, trying to be everything for everyone and wearing so many hats. You want to excel, but you shouldn't do it to the detriment of your health or your well-being. So definitely I probably would reevaluate how you set boundaries and say no to things. If your boss is asking you to do something on top of the other 50 things that they've given you, it's okay to say no, it's too much. And I guess the other thing that I probably would have changed earlier is looking at my own business ideas and actually doing something about them. I have quite a few business ideas and I have had for quite a number of years, but because I've been too busy working for other people, in their companies, I've not had the time to be able to dedicate to my own goals, because essentially I want to run my own business. I want to be able to take what I've learned from working with various different leaders in the businesses that I have and apply it to the different ideas that I want to be able to do and set up. So those are probably the two kind of like key learnings that I've taken from trying to navigate my career and establish myself.
Which is definitely something that has hit a spot for me personally, because I think now whereby I'm 25, I have had, business ideas from, college days, and I never actually necessarily took it seriously or I didn't actually do anything with it. And I think if I if I did start earlier and maybe somewhere a bit, I won't say better off, but I would have possibly been somewhere further now.
Although it's never too late, though.
It is never too late. It's never too late. And I think that's one thing that people should understand. There are some people who have the ability to be able to work full-time under someone else's company and start their own company and still like maintain and run a household, whereby some people can just about balance with working for another company and doing something for themselves. But like Brother Monday said, time management is key. If that means that you have to set something aside, set time aside, write down what it is you think you need to do. You need to, maybe this day I focus on this hour during the day is 1 hour dedicated to, praying on this specific, what I want here, or just taking an action once an hour of a day, once a week, trying to establish what it is that you think that you want to do. Because at the end of the day, like if I actually now start doing calculations, there are 24 hours in a day, right? There's 7 days a week, that's 168 hours. Now, if someone says take out 2 hours of those 168 hours and plan something for yourself in terms of like your goals or your aspirations or like a business plan, I don't think it's necessarily too much time. 2 hours out of 168. Definitely. If we times that by 4, I mean, that's 672. So if you literally, I think us as people, we need to spend a lot more time on ourselves and focusing on ourselves, our career, our aspirations. And I think it's never too late.
It's all about being intentional, I think.
Exactly. Go for it. It's never too late. Brother Monday, you must be able to separate your career life from your family life, know when you are at work and when you are at home, you have to operate them differently. And
that's true. That's good advice.
That is actually amazing advice, because I think some people don't necessarily know when to take their work hat off when they're within the, like, at home.
Yeah.
If you're frustrated from something that has happened at work.
And not to bring work home.
Exactly. Leave it there.
Yeah.
Leave it there, because that's when, you know, you may become overwhelmed, a bit drained. You don't get enough. It's about, you know, there's a time for work, and then when you come home, that's where your happiness should be and where it lies. And you forget about work. And I think when people don't necessarily do that, that's when they kind of get drowned within work and within that kind of lifestyle, and they don't necessarily have time for themselves or those who matter.
Yeah, I guess it's about being intentional about sowing seeds into the time that you spend with your loved ones.
Yeah.
Because, you know, time goes so quickly.
Honestly.
You'll never get that, you know, lost time back. So, yeah.
I'm thinking about what I've been doing from when I finished uni when I was 20 to now that I'm 25. Like, 5 years has actually gone by so quickly. And I'm just like, you just don't want to blink, and it is a certain time of your life and you're thinking, where did the years go? What have I established, or what have I done with myself during that time? So, or
even when you look back at, you know, the end of the year and what have you achieved in that year, that's a bit of an eye-opener.
Exactly, definitely. Literally, self-development is key, 100%. And with your business plans that you do have, I want to wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With it. I think I'm actually going to take on board what you have said, and I think I need to invest a bit more in myself and in my, you know, business plans, because I do not want to spend the rest of my life working for someone else.
Amen.
So definitely, it is something that we should all take on board. I would like to thank you for coming on to the show today. I think I have learned a lot. Just want to say to everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. What I do want to hear back from you guys, and I'm going to do this next time, is for you to actually send in your request of next month's topic. I think that'll be a really good one. We will pick at random what we will talk about. So please send them in. If you also do have any further questions that you'd like to ask me, or if you know, just any type of suggestions that you have for the show, please do talk about it, send it in, and let's talk about it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we shall see you next month. Take care.